Broadcast Center means Bob Whitcomb.
Hello.
Bob Whitcomb, I appreciate your coming in today.
It's an honor. So I fixed my hair.
We were joking about doing makeup in the green room.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe green makeup would be appropriate. The famous poet T.S. Eliot apparently wore green makeup.
What?
Yeah.
For what reason, do we know?
I probably made him feel more kind of conservationist or something, more ecological.
I will have
made
to
him
look
feel
this
more
up.
He wanted to look like a national park. That's why.
I do believe everything you tell us, so I will look up this.
It's all true.
T.S. Eliot.
It's all true.
So we'd love to talk a little bit about the last column and what you have planned for the coming one.
Sure.
The last one, the headline was, the WPA-style projects for panhandlers.
All right, yeah, for panhandlers. Yeah, the idea is to get some of these panhandlers, not all of them, because some of them are too mentally ill or physically disabled, but to give them jobs cleaning up litter and doing other things around the cities where they're panhandling. It's mostly cities, even though I've been in some very small mill towns and you see them too. So get them to go out kind of, maybe they can do some public painting and some public infrastructure, fill ditches, clean up litter, a little like the WPA in the 1930s, which employed so many other people who would have been otherwise destitute. Rather than just let them go out there and, in the rain and the wind and the bright sun and take money from people who stop and then cause car crashes, which they sometimes do. Actually, this is a real problem at some intersections. People feel sorry for them, so they roll down their windows without telling the people behind them they're stopped.
Well, you know
see
that
these crashes. I've witnessed them.
You've seen it.
Because my office, the corner of Orange Street and Charles Street, in kind of the edge of downtown Providence, across the Marriott Hotel, Arthur Robbins Marriott Hotel, I've witnessed this stuff.
Well, in Cranston, that is how Mayor Fung pushed forth the ordinance there.
Right, yeah.
Now, he's been getting a lot of pushback from that.
Well, the ACLU?
Yeah.
Rhode Island has a very extremist ACLU, unfortunately. This, to me, is a matter of public safety. These people cause crashes. And, more to the point, many of these people, maybe not all of them, I wouldn't be surprised if a majority, probably should be in some kind of a protective custody. Institutionalized or whatever. You see a lot of these people these homeless people out there, because in the late 60s, early 70s, the country embarked upon a giant experiment in deinstitutionalization. Mm-hmm. When we came up with these new drugs like Thorazine. I've tried them all, so I can say that. In fact, I've got some samples here.
Next week we're going to have a breakdown.
That's right, we're going to have a breakdown.
The
feeling was you could give these people pills and it'd be okay, but of course, because they're mentally ill, they don't take their pills. It's sort of a little circle. Nobody really completed the circle. So you've got a lot of very mentally ill, troubled people panhandling. And it doesn't make their lives better to do this.
So do you think the city's done a good job? There has been a lot of attention paid for it, both from former Mayor Joe Paolino, current
He's
mayor.
Worried about partly for commercial reasons, because it scares away people from downtown Providence.
That's what people say.
We know, what was the name of the homeless shelter?
Travelers Aid.
Travelers Aid. That scared a lot of people away, and I think he's probably right. And when they moved that operation across the highway to the YMCA, it probably did improve downtown. It probably made it a little bit safer. Most of these people are not dangerous, they're just troubled. And I would hazard a guess at least 80% of them have serious mental illness. And they should be treated, some of them should be institutionalized, but they're on the street, and begging does not, in the long run, make their lives better.
Well, one of the things I know the city is looking at is what's called a navigation center, which is looking to be a one-stop place where they can come in, find the resources.
Come in out of the cold, maybe get a meal.
So we're looking to see, that's kind of one of the things the city is looking at moving forward. So I know that, and that's something that has come up before, again, the work option. So we'll keep an eye in to see what happens with the city moving forward.
Some of the cities that have tried this have had very good effects, and it gives people some sense of mission. It gives people order. St. Paul had a wonderful line, roughly translated from the ancient Greek, the great therapy of work. I mean, a mission, cleaning up litter, pushing a broom, that's all honorable work. All work is honorable.
Well, we'll see what happens here in the city. That was just one of the things you wrote about in last week's column. And other one, as they are wrangling with the budget, literally wrangling with the budget as we speak.
And they're having a terrible time because they don't realize you cannot make an economic prediction, therefore, tax revenue prediction, for more than maybe a month ahead of time. Everything can turn on a dime.
Well, that was your argument.
45 years of covering the economy, including as a business editor at 3 places. You can't make these predictions. I mean, my intuition, based on my own personal observation of the years, will, for example, probably have a pretty bad recession next year. And so the tax revenues will plunge. And I will be very happy if I'm utterly wrong, because I am living on mostly on investment income and pensions. And if the market goes down, I'm in deep trouble, and who knows what I have to resort to doing.
Well, we'll hope you're here in the GoLocal studio. But you talked about it in the context of the car tax and the elimination of the car tax.
Big mistake.
Well, so you think it's a big mistake?
I think the timing is terrible. Yeah, I think the timing is always terrible unless you have a plausible, long-term, believable, credible replacement for the revenue, and they do not.
Well, don't forget, this
This is all blue sky.
This isn't the first time they try to tackle it, and people keep bringing that up, that the last time they did, they said, okay, here's what we'll do.
Right.
But when the economy turns, the first thing to go is...
The economy tanks, and they
gotta go back to car tax.
They have no offset. There's no offset on the board. And, I just think this is one of these sort of fantasia. I don't like the car tax either, mostly because it's regressive. It really hits the poor people the most. But I think there's a better way of doing it, of handling that problem, related problems. One might be more mass transit, obviously. But I just think it's a sort of shimmer. I understand with House Speaker Mattiello, he made that promise. He wants to keep his promise. Keeping promises is good. But I don't think it has much to do with fiscal reality. Right?
So speaking of...
I don't think the governor wants anything to do with it.
I don't
I mean,
think so
she
either.
said, oh yeah, wouldn't it be nice if we cut the car tax? No, I don't think she particularly...
Well, she's got her own big ticket item she wants, and that's free college tuition.
Yeah, which is, I think, another snare and an illusion, because, for one thing, why should everybody go to college? Who gets the jobs now? Plumbers, electricians, the college thing has been highly, highly overrated for a long time. It might be a good PR move, but I don't think it would improve the economy. We need more people who know how to, I went to college too, but for me it was vocational, really. Well, I went into publishing.
I'm going to be a writer.
Well, yeah, writer and editor. And I used to know how to measure type and all that stuff too. I did. I was like a carpenter.
Art.
Yeah, make it fit with lead and all that stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, you have to teach someone.
I was like a plumber.
Teach me.
A plumber. I was like a plumber.
The lost
I
art
could
of
read,
type
even
font.
read type in reverse in the old days before my first stroke.
Well, I was also the last class in high school in a typewriter, so
Well,
I've got a little bit
That's
of
on
a...
my list of things in the coming column. There's a revival of typewriters. Even the young people decided they really like the kind of tactile quality to it. And of course, the great disadvantage is you are not connected to the internet. That's also the biggest advantage.
That might be a good advantage.
No Twitter. No Twitter, no
Twitter.
Porn, even though that might be a drawback to some people. The
little laugh from Tony Jones
the only
in the back.
reliable source of income in the basically in the internet is porn.
The oldest profession.
That's
But
right.
you did talk about typewriters. You did touch upon the kids at Harvard, the admits who had gotten themselves in trouble. Well, at age 18, your brain's not even fully formed.
Right.
And here you are doing these things, putting them out there.
And this little group, but I think maybe you should blame Harvard College a little bit, because they sort of enabled this. I resemble that remark. I resemble that remark. Because they help create these things. I mean, Facebook is just a disaster anyway. It puts people in these echo chambers. What do they call it? Confirmation bias. It's awful. And you're right, these kids, these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, they know it. They're making these sick jokes, which of course we never made it.
No. At least
never
not in
made
social media.
cruel, bigoted, ignorant jokes. Never did it.
Well, I'll tell you,
Never
I
swore.
did see this week, there was one post that I had up that two people were kind of going at it, kind of really, really tough. And they kind of actually the next day apologized to each other because it got to such a level. And I kind of said, thanks.
Yeah.
You never see that. You never see if it goes nuclear that folks sort of say, you know what, I went too far. I am sorry.
It's so rare that people apologize. It's sort of in the same realm as people don't very, very rarely resign on principle anymore.
That is
They
true.
still do in England, I think. They don't resign on principle here because there are no principles. They just want a fancy job.
There's one more piece of the column from last week that I wanted to talk about
That was the Braille part, right?
before we get to what you're going to do this weekend.
Yeah.
The town in Connecticut for sale?
Yeah, it's true, Johnsonville. I put a bid in, I only had $158, so they rejected
Where did you
it.
find this?
I just look around.
Do you Google
real.
towns for sale? So tell folks if they haven't read the column
Okay,
what this
there's
is.
a little town near Hampton, Connecticut, a little village called Johnsonville, old mill town. It's for sale. I think the last asking price was 1.9 million. It's got a nice little pond in it, some old buildings. I think a church, an abandoned church. And I
Like a
really
general
would like to
storage
buy.
looking?
I wanted to create a kind of polygamous village there. That was my idea.
Just like Westworld, have you watched Westworld on HBO?
Yeah, something like that. Or the Transcendentalist Brook Farm and all that stuff.
It'll be
Yeah,
Bob
yeah,
Whitcomb's Westworld in Connecticut.
Yeah,
Keep an eye out.
or sort of a non-celibate version of a Shaker village, but not celibate. So I think.
Well, you bet $158. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta read.
And I want to get a Marriott hotel in there.
If you don't read Bob's columns, you have to, because they're always just this mix of local and international politics, and then these out of like where did this? It's just so
Well,
interesting.
to quote, who was it? The Dorothy Parker about Catherine. My columns run the gamut of emotions from A to B.
So what are you going to write about this weekend?
I can't remember. No,
But you have your
ferries.
notes.
I love the ferries. The Providence Newport ferry. I know it's heavily subsidized, and you guys have done very good coverage on that. It gets money from the state, money from the feds, but I think it's well worth it as a model, as an example, to encourage the creation of more such services around the state. Rhode Island's basically a bay and an archipelago, a bunch of islands. Most of the population is along the coast. In most parts of the world, a bay like this, at least the advanced parts of the world, East Asia, Japan, China, and so on, and Western Europe, it would be just crawling with ferry service.
Littered with
regular
boats.
ferry service. And I want to keep the thing going as an example, as an encouragement. It also does bring in tourists from out of state who spend money. They get drunk in Newport, which is good. And if they have 2 or 3 drinks, then they have 14 more, and they go out and buy stuff. That's a good thing. And then there's another service, a little company, Connecticut Marine something or other, is running a little ferry service between Jamestown and Newport, which has been terrific. Because the Newport Bridge is being, the Pell Bridge, because Senator Pell paid for it. I forgot
A lot
about
of traffic
that.
right now.
Anyway, you can take a little ferry from Jamestown to Newport, like the old days.
So I haven't ridden the ferry yet.
This is
I
great.
love it in
Yeah.
theory. $10 each
this
way,
is-
but what's
Yeah.
going to happen when the subsidy goes away?
Well, it'll probably disappear. I just think that subsidy should, for economic development reasons, if no other reason, it should be kept. It's a great thing.
Well, they've got a 3-year limit on it. I don't know if there's other federal. I don't know if there's other sources. The
They
DOT.
might be,
DOT said they were going to review it.
Maybe they could even get some infrastructure money. Remember they moved the rivers in Providence?
Yes.
That was sort of a semi-scam. Senator Chafee got that was transportation money, rivers, moving roads. But for economic development, for tourism and stuff, and in the long run, for environmental reasons, it'd be great to get more people on the boats, more people off the roads.
That's the reason they get the federal funding.
Densely
is
populated
this air
area.
mitigation
Absolutely,
program.
very dense, second most densely populated state. Built around a bay, a bunch of islands. It's perfect for ferries.
Well, we should do a GoLocal Live from the ferry this
Yeah,
summer.
no,
okay.
absolutely.
You going to write about that this weekend? Anything else you can give us a
Let
tip
me
on?
see. Yeah, I talked a little bit about Jeff Sessions. He didn't say anything new. There's some new stuff. Apparently, he went to a couple of other dinners with Russian
That
people
he
representing.
remembered or forgot
Russian-
about?
No, he forgot all about it. He's got a serious memory issue, and I'm very sympathetic to that. I share his problem.
You got some notes here.
Yeah, and a quick thing, old folks. The old folks, meaning, well, me among other people, don't want their Social Security cut. They don't want their Medicare cut. And then he said, well, I paid for that. Well, actually, they don't, because the net benefits, in other words, the amount of money they're taking out, as opposed to the money they paid in taxes, they're way ahead. And so the future generation are going to have to pay for these deficits. The young people just get trampled in this country. The focus is entirely on the old people, but that's partly the young people's fault because they don't vote.
That's who's voting.
They don't vote. And one other little item, which is probably of interest to me and about 3 other people on the planet Earth. There's a playwright called A.R. Gurney who recently died. He wrote some wonderful plays. One is called The Cocktail Party, and one is called Sylvia, which I think is about a dog. And it's about this sort of dwindling and now pretty much disappeared WASP upper middle class. the old establishment. And for all of its innumerable flaws, which I'm somewhat familiar with, including drunkenness, occasional adultery, it's still, they had some values that were really, straight back rectitude, honor, dignity. They also had some hypocrisies. But anyway, this guy Gurney, who was from that crowd, was a wonderful, wonderful narrator of that.
And you're gonna write on that for
I
this
just
weekend.
wrote a little short item
snippet
about it. He's actually a very well-known playwright. A lot of stuff on Broadway. He may have gotten, I think he may have even gotten a Pulitzer. But
I look forward to it.
he wrote about a kind of lost tribe.
The Lost Tribe.
Lost Tribe.
Check it out this
Yeah.
weekend when Bob Whitcomb's column is
Okay.
on GoLocal.
Yeah.
As always, Bob, appreciate your coming
Okay.
in. Great day out there. Hope you have fun plans
It's
ahead.
beautiful.
Okay, go
terrific.
enjoy. Much
Love-
better than earlier this week, that's for sure. Okay. Bob Whitcomb, GoLocal Columnist, as he does every Thursday, most every Thursday. Sometimes he travels and sometimes we give him a little flexibility because he's Bob Whitcomb and he writes every week for us in a column for GoLocal, which we appreciate, and appreciate his time being in here to talk about what he wrote about last week and what he's thinking about writing this week. Interesting discussion on the ferries, given the piece that GoLocal had written this week about the subsidized ferry service, what might be the future of it.